Special elections are in the books, and we're here to have a very special edition this week in Missouri Politics with the newest member of the Missouri General Assembly, Sara Walsh. Congratulations on your win, and welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
So a lot of people can speculate or do polls or things. You've actually been out on the doorstep of Missourians asking for their vote. What are they talking about?
Well, I've knocked thousands of doors in the district and put thousands of miles on my car and made thousands of phone calls. And the people of the 50th district want government to stay out of their way. They want good schools. They want good family supporting jobs. And they want to ensure that we have safe communities for themselves and their families.
You know, it's interesting. There's a battleground places in the state. And a lot of those places like Jefferson County or the Boot Heel or even Eastern Jackson County, the president's very popular. Boone County is a place where the president was never all that popular, maybe one of the few battleground areas where he could be a liability. What do people talk about in regards to the Republican Party? Is there apathy that we saw with the Democrats when your party has the White House?
Well, anytime that you have a special election, it's at an odd time, right?
Sure.
I mean, who's thinking of voting in August? And so people are taking summer vacations and such. So getting out the vote efforts are very instrumental. Mm-hmm. And that's why, you know, I was making phone calls every morning and then in the afternoons till dusk, knocking doors. So again, just hard work, not ever taking anything for granted.
That HRCC team is a machine. I mean, they just win elections. It is an impressive thing to watch, even in a special election. They just have a system in place that seems to turn out successful campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just everyone just needs everyone worked together so well with HRCC. You know, under the new ethics law, you know, there was not the communication between, you know, so I didn't know what they were doing until I got mailers in the mail, which is kind of interesting because people at doors will sometimes mention things. But yeah, everyone worked so hard, and I'm honored to have known so many of those people that from before they worked at HRCC.
What was interesting to me is how many of your caucus members would shoot the selfie shot while they were out knocking doors. I would say the people in the 50th district got to meet more members of the legislature, Republican and Democrat, than maybe any other concentration of people in the state this summer.
It was so much fun.
It's like a mini state fair. You had so many legislators there.
It was lots of fun.
Let me ask you about one of the attacks in the race was that, well, you'll just be a rubber stamp for the governor. Look, there are some times when the governor doing the best thing for the state can be at odds with any individual legislator's district. Both of you totally in good faith representing your constituencies. How do you think you deal? I mean, you're not somebody new to politics. You observed it for a long time and very active. How do you deal with a scenario where maybe the governor wants to go one way for the state, but you want to go one way for your district?
Well, I was elected by the people of the 50th district to represent them, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
So when you're representing them, give me a couple things you really care about working on in the legislature.
Well, public safety. So met many members of law enforcement community in the 50th district, from people who work for the sheriff's offices to people who work for the city police. And to me, having the backs of our law enforcement officers and ensure that they have the resources that they need to stay safe while they keep us safe is vitally important to our communities, and it's a passion of mine, and it's something that I will fight for in the legislature.
So speaking of law enforcement, there's one member of law enforcement that called you to congratulate you, right? The Lieutenant Governor, Mike Parson.
Yes.
So when you have a guy like that you personally know, just one floor down on the second floor there, that's got to be a help when you enter the legislature. A guy you can go talk to, he's been in the House, he's been in the Senate, he's still there presiding over the Senate. That's got to be an advantage.
Yes, it will be, and working with everyone. I mean, I'm proud. I just saw on Facebook on the way in here of our governor and his strong stance in supporting our law enforcement officers, and it's just so vitally important that at every level of government and every level of our community that we speak up for those in law enforcement, and that we're not silent, and that we appreciate them for all that they do. I mean, they're putting their lives on the line every single day to keep us safe, and so it really means a lot to them for us to verbalize what's in our hearts.
So let me ask you about one thing that has been controversial in the past. Your district cares a lot about the University of Missouri. The flagship campus is right there in Columbia, right next door. So it's went through a rough time by any measure. I mean, I think probably the Missouri Times was one of the first newspapers that pointed out there were problems and we were scoffed at. It looks to me like through the market, through people maybe not sending their kids there, there's been some corrections. And now they have a president in Dr. Choi who appears to have a lot of a good common sense about where things are going. Where do you see your role in helping the university and the General Assembly?
Well, Dr. Choi and the Chancellor are doing a fantastic job, and I just know that what I really look forward to seeing is just, watch that play out, watch how the new Mizzou and the new initiatives that they're taking and the leadership that they have, how that's going to then make such a difference in our Mid-Missouri community, because the University of Missouri is the economic engine of Mid-Missouri. Sure. And as I went door to door, I mean, so many people in that district are employed by the University of Missouri, but even on a larger scale, the impact that the research reactor and the health center and the engineers and all the benefits that they have, that the broader reach that has for the university or for the state of Missouri, and even nationally and globally.
My last question for you is: can you go tell your fellow caucus members at Summer Caucus, which is coming up this week? Can you go to them and say the University of Missouri is heading in the right direction now? They're getting back on the right track, and can you look them in the eye and say you should make this a priority in funding?
Yes, I've pledged during my campaign to support the University of Missouri, proud alumni and graduate of the University of Missouri, and yes.
We're going to have Dr. Choi on the show next week. I'm interested to ask him some of these questions too. But in the meantime, congratulations on your win. Thank you for joining us on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We'll be right back. St. Louis legend Ray Hartmann joins the Opinion Maker panel next.
I've been in this industry for over 25 years, with the majority of that time here in St. Louis. At Republic Services, this is the community we serve. That's why we built a clean fleet of 130 compressed natural gas trucks. It is also why we recruit the best people and invest millions of dollars in the St. Louis area to continually upgrade our facilities. We value our community and take great pride in keeping the environment clean. Republic Services, we'll handle it from here.
My name is Eric Philippi. I'm a veteran, a carpenter, and a father. When Eric Greitens said he was going to change politics as usual, folks like me didn't think the first thing he'd do as governor was take dead aim at our jobs and our families' livelihoods by working to repeal prevailing wage. Call Governor Greitens. Tell him to protect prevailing wage and to protect my family, not destroy it.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads, because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
Nobody likes power outages, including us. That's why Ameren, Missouri is investing in new equipment and smarter technology to reduce outages and keep pace with future needs. And it's working. We're in the top 25% in the nation for reliability. And on average, our rates are 18% lower than other Midwestern states. Making sure the power is there when you need it. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. We are joined on our Opinion Maker panel by St. Louis legend Ray Hartmann, publisher of St. Louis Magazine and all other accolades. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Sarah Martin, welcome back to the show.
Thank
Glad to have you. Carl Bearden, friend of the show, dressed in the Johnny Cash outfit. Glad to have you, sir.
I walked the line. I appreciate being back.
Nice. And Robert Knodell, triumphant, conquering hero, head of HRCC. Good week for you. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me today.
So break this down. This is just my simple West Butler County hillbilly interpretation. You got into this race thinking it's like most specials in a rural district. However, this district is not all that rural. It is a lot of Boone County. And it looks like there was a moment in this race where the speaker, yourself, someone stepped in and said, okay, there's some issue here, Republican apathy, something with Trump. We're going to have to push our chips in. You did, and you won. Am I wrong?
Well, you're not entirely wrong. In fact, you're right about that. The mutual friends of ours in Butler County taught me a long time ago, probably taught you, good candidates win elections.
True.
And we had an exceptional candidate who ran a strong campaign, had a good organization, had an ideological philosophy and a platform of issues that fit that district quite well. But we're starting to see the flip side. We said as Republicans in 2010, 2012, 2014, there were a group of people on our side that would walk across hot coals and broken glass to get to the ballot box every time President Obama or his party was on the ballot to try to defeat them. And now, now that we're the party that's in control at the federal level, in control at the state level, we do have to deal with the enthusiasm on the other side. Now, I'll tell you this: we had in the 50th district, where our special election was, we had last cycle 2016, great year for Republicans. Senator Bond, Governor Greitens both got between 53% in the 50th district. Sara Walsh got a hair over 52%. So luckily we passed the test and we performed at the same percentage that we did last year in the election.
Ray Hartmann, I sense something different about Democrats. This was a different type of special election. Now, part of it is there are Democrats in Columbia that could drive to this district easily, but there was a different type of, yes, they lost, but I'll tell you, there was a different type of sentiment going into this race. There was a different enthusiasm around that campaign.
Yeah, the Democrats are energized, as you say, and I think of myself more as an independent than the Democrat, but I think that they are kind of needing to be better at marshaling and organizing themselves if they want to be more effective in 2018 and in particular 2020. And having said I'm not a Democrat, I think the state and nation needs them very much to have their act together better than it is.
Sarah, is there anyone that watches Donnybrook that believes Ray's not a Democrat?
To the left of the Democrats.
Yeah, that might be the case. Might be the left of the Democrats.
That's fair.
To me, though, I did notice Stephen Weber has brought some energy to the party. Probably the Donald Trump elections has made that much easier to do. But I saw a special election that was ran very competently and very close. And I do think while the end result might have been what this district is, most people didn't anticipate that.
No, the Democrats did outperform, and we're seeing a result of Stephen Weber being on the ground. It's really the first time we've had a chairman that is as active and as disciplined and focused as Stephen Weber. So I think the appetite is there for the Democrats to turn some seats, but it's got to be the right candidate, and it has to be disciplined. And we also have to realize what the districts are, and we have to represent that.
Carl Bearden, I thought it was interesting. You've seen a lot of these special elections, your time in the House. You guys kind of patented the model of winning some of these specials. A lot of those seats that became a Republican majority were formed out of special elections. These things can sneak up on people, and I thought Skelton almost snuck up on the Republicans.
I think they did run a very good race. I thought they ran it, and you could do that in a special election. You can focus. But, it really shouldn't have been a surprise, because if you look at the 2016 cycle, St. Louis, Boone County area, Kansas City all went Hillary. And so that was going to be a tough race anyway. Again, the energy that is there from the other side, because when you're in the minority, you have a little more energy than a majority does, because you've already caught the car. Now you just have to figure out what to do with it.
So you've seen a lot of these. Is it possible? I've always felt like it's easier to make that kind of come from behind, sneak up on them in a House race than it is a special Senate race. We'll see one in November in eastern Jackson County. I think it's harder to do that in a state Senate race.
No, I think it's right, just because of the volume and where the reach is. I mean, the fact that Boone County accounted for a lot of the vote in this House race, I think made the biggest difference in making it so close.
Scott, I think one of the biggest problems, though, when you look at elections in really the country, is the gerrymandering and the redistricting that has really
Is it the wrong day to make that when you have a close House election? I mean, it's a close election.
No, I'm not talking about this one so much. I'm talking about when you talk about down the road and people, the Democrats organizing. There are so many districts on both sides that the one party doesn't even bother fielding the candidate. I think it's really unfortunate for democracy, whichever side you're on. It happens to be favoring Republicans a bit more now in Missouri, but it's not a good thing. I mean, so many races are over before they're started on both sides.
There's in Missouri, it is a disadvantage for Democrats to have two large cities stuck up against state lines. You can't stretch a district from South Grand and St. Louis to West Butler County. You can't stretch one from Del Mar to Springfield. Draw me a Democrat district in southeast Missouri. Doesn't happen.
Especially our state legislative districts in the House and the Senate are not drawn by the legislature. In fact, they're either drawn by a bipartisan, evenly split commission, or they're which was the case in the Senate last time, or the appellate courts that drew the House
But
maps.
there are deals made, and you've got to Democrats have to step up and realize how that happened.
And the Democrats are party to those deals.
Yeah,
as much as the
Democrats have
Republicans. I'm
themselves
saying
to blame.
I am
deal without
independent.
them.
I didn't say anything
Democrats
about the
have
Republican Party.
themselves to
I'm
blame.
saying the Democratic political elites have been just as involved, in my opinion, in these deals to preserve their own districts.
Yes.
Well,
I'm
this last
simply
redraw,
saying,
though-
I'm just saying that it's not good for democracy that we have so few. And some of it, to your point, is we self-segregate. We do a lot of things that cause that. But I think that it's exacerbated by political class preserving itself with deals, and we have too many districts, in my opinion, that are over before they start, and I don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah, we in St. Charles County, though, we got split up. 4 of our rep districts got split up 4 different ways. I live in a St. Louis County district, and quite frankly, the biggest community of interest that we have with the St. Louis County people is they're all moving over to my side. And so those things are happening. I think it's a little different. It will be interesting to watch this next redraw and see how it comes out.
So let's talk about what this political environment, when you have an energized Democratic Party running better races, running candidates that are very aggressive, what does that do for, say, a Claire McCaskill reelection?
Oh, I think it'll be beneficial to Claire for sure. But the Democrats we're seeing some growing pains right now, especially after the last election. You have different factions, and that could, we'll see how that works out. I mean, it could work against us for sure.
How do you marshal this energy, Ray Hartmann? You have, no question, a lot of energy in the Democratic Party in the cities right now. You take that energy, though, does it, I mean, to me, if the Democrats in the position they're in have a serious primary against Claire McCaskill, that might be where they jump the shark in this state politically.
Nah, I think, first of all, she's not going to have a serious primary
You would
challenge.
have to assume so.
There's no question. And I'm, as a Bernie Sanders person, there is no way that the person whose name I don't know, I'm sorry, which is part of her problem, there's no way that Claire McCaskill's having a serious challenge. And I think actually it helps her legitimately because she is a centrist, and that's what is going to sell
just
better.
can't beat her, so
and this
she
person's going to help her define that, I think. Claire, I mean, you have to look. Claire and Roy Blunt have amazingly similar approval numbers. If you look at, but I can't remember the name of the site, but there's pretty accepted methodology on U.S. Senate approval ratings around the country. Both Claire and they're literally next to each other out of the 100 senators at 46% approval and a net of about 8 or 9 points positive. It's amazing how closely they track. And that isn't as safe or as good as you would want if you're Claire McCaskill, but when you're running in 2018, which almost by definition is going to be a Democratic year. I mean, based on history, not partisanship. Almost by definition has to be, as a party out of power both in Missouri and nationally, is going to be a Democratic year if all things were equal, if we didn't have the current occupant in the White House. It's only going to be better for her because of that. I don't think that she has much. I think you're never safe with all the money that's going to pour in against her, but I think she has a very solid position.
Corbin, I don't think she rests on her popularity. I think she pours scalding hot millions of dollars of negative on whoever her opponent is, right?
I do too, or positives for the person she wants to be her opponent. Ooh, I don't think
Can you pull that off this time?
I don't know. But I think Ray's right. I mean, I don't think there's any question in anybody's mind Claire McCaskill is going to be the Democrat nominee for U.S. Senate. Sure. Who the Republican nominee is going to be up for question. And I think it really all is going to depend. I think the 2018 cycle, particularly in Missouri, is going to depend. We've seen the failure of Republicans to carry through on their promise of repealing Obamacare. They're going to take on tax reform. If they don't get tax reform done, I think 2018 looks a whole lot better for Claire McCaskill than it would have.
Robert Knodell, you've ran House candidates on saying they're going to get rid of Obamacare. You've told people for years and years, put us in power, we'll get rid of socialism. They didn't. What do you tell people?
Well, the Congress is coming back from their August recess, and there are a lot of Republicans around the country that have been talking to their senators, talking to their representatives. Obviously, it's not an issue with our delegation here in Missouri. I think they're on the Republican side. I think there is unity behind proposals to repeal and replace Obamacare. But hopefully, some of our fellow Republicans in other parts of the country are speaking with their elected leaders while they're home on recess, and hopefully they'll return to D.C. and get to work.
The HRCC machine that you run, can it hold the same number of seats even in a different political environment that we've seen recently?
Absolutely, absolutely. We had a large majority before Obamacare was even the law.
He could have made news by saying no.
He
would have been the first.
Done a solid.
That would have been the first guy ever, either party, that said, "Nah, I think you're right. I don't think."
One thing, cryptic thing, the man in black here said though. You said we don't know who's going to be the nominee. So Josh Hawley's talking about running. Eric Schmidt's talking about running. I would say throw Ryan Silvey would make a very interesting candidate. He would definitely be for the media very quotable. Though David Steelman in there, that there's no shortage there. Who are you referencing? Is there somebody we've not talked about, or?
Well, no, I think Paul Kurtman, you left him out.
He's running, yeah. He's already
running. I think you have a few others like Aaron Hedlund. You've got Tony Minetti over in western side of the state that may be a candidate that Claire would want to run against. I don't know that it'd be quite as effective because people are going to be looking at that, but I don't put that past her, if you will. Because she's a very, I've known Claire for a number of years. She's a very crafty and intelligent person.
All right, give me a prediction.
She's a good senator. You didn't mention that.
Yeah, I didn't do that on purpose.
Missouri has two pretty effective senators, I think. But give me somebody that's not announced that you think would run. The most likely person. Give me somebody out of left field.
Aaron Hedlund.
Okay, so it's not announced. Who do you think it would most likely to be?
Tough to tell.
My thought would be an Eric Schmidt, but I don't know. I think Sylvie would add a lot to the race. Look on the other side. Is there somebody that's not running you think would be the person?
No, I don't think so. You might see some of the Bernie Democrats get behind the other candidate, but as Ray said, we don't remember their name, so I think it's Claire.
I mean, but by no means am I saying Claire's inevitable. I mean, any race with all the money being spent on both sides, but one of the reasons that a lot of people aren't going to run against her, nobody's seriously going to challenge on the Democratic side, and really, I think it's going to deter a lot of Republicans, is politicians like to run in winnable races. I mean, there are reasons to run.
I don't think she would run if Hillary Clinton was president.
What's that?
If Hillary Clinton was president, I don't think she would.
Too hypothetical. Claire?
She might
Oh, no, she would have run. I think, but the point
There's
is...
no way you could win with Hillary Clinton as president, right?
Well, I mean, that's like, it's too hypothetical. I mean, we have don't get me started. But, I mean, well, at least, she would have not been an unstable person in the White House. It's a little different than really partisanship at this point. I just think that sometimes candidates, particularly early in their careers, will make a statewide race just to get established and get, again, either party, to get their name out and to build a resume and so forth, knowing that they're probably not going to win and hoping they catch lightning in a bottle. But usually the big names are going to go after a race when they think they've got a pretty solid shot of winning. And structurally, this is not an inviting race for politicians on the Republican side.
I'll throw out one, the Dent County Destroyer, USS David Steelman. I think he could get in this race. He's proven he'll self-fund a race. He would be very interesting to talk about. But let's talk about somebody you know well, and Todd Richardson. Nicole Galloway, clearly the Democrat candidate. She was appointed to the job by Governor Nixon. She's never ran statewide, but it's a good position to get your name out. Todd Richardson seems like he's getting closer to maybe making an announcement. I think that's an interesting race. I think the Republican starts marginally ahead, maybe?
Maybe, although she obviously has, I think she has done a fairly good job. I think her release this week on the outgoing Nixon administration was a pretty good audit. I'm disappointed that the Democrats didn't pick up on more of it.
I was going to say, that made you smile. I was praising her on Donnybrook last night. I thought it was so great.
And she's done some other things that I think, so I think even though she's appointed, she hasn't run, I think that's a detriment. I think Todd has a little bit of an edge, but I think she's going to be a tough candidate.
What do you think? I think the Speaker getting closer to making a decision and running.
I believe the speaker will make a decision very soon, and he is a tested leader in the Republican Party in the state of Missouri. He's respected across the spectrum in Jefferson City by both parties. Obviously he's run successfully for the House of Representatives. Comes from a family that's run successfully. This will be a maiden voyage for Auditor Galloway, and I see that as a toss-up race. Possibly favoring the Republicans if the speaker is as effective in his campaign for auditor as he has been leading the Missouri House.
It is my take that I think Todd's the top candidate on the bench for the Republicans. I think if the election is an interesting part. If he gets a job, whatever job, I think he might be the best one the state's ever had. Can he get the job? Can you separate that race? If Claire McCaskill wins, does also Nicole Galloway win?
I think
Are those two
Nicole
separate
wins,
questions?
and I don't know about best at the job. Nicole is incredibly qualified for this job. Speaker Richardson is no doubt talented, but when it comes down to being an auditor, Nicole is the one with the skills. But I think, yes, I think we'll see.
The races?
No, you can't. I think if Claire wins, then Nicole, yes, wins.
Can you separate those races?
Todd Richardson is a tested leader, but I was a tested student at the University of Missouri. Called me graduated in half of the class and made the top half possible. And I think my 2.6 is higher than the grades he would get. But I think Nicole Galloway really showed serious independence by willing to criticize a Democratic governor, and I think but it just showed she's a serious auditor, and I think that's gonna help her. And again, I'm not on the Democratic campaign committee, but I will tell you, if you just look with any objectivity at off-year elections for parties that are way out of power, structurally, this is a solid year for the Democrats, all things being equal. They're not equal. You've got an unbalanced person running the country, which scares a lot of people in the center. And you've got the fact that until this last election, look how well Democrats in Missouri do in statewide elections. They won almost all of them almost every year until the phenomena with Hillary at the top of the ticket and Trump winning so big in Missouri.
Yeah, the phenomenon of Donald J. Trump.
Well, no, it was. I mean, and I think a
Ray's
lot
getting
of people
tired of
have
winning.
buyer's remorse.
Can you separate the two races?
I believe absolutely that you can. Being able to drive a message at the state level, and I think you're going to see such a narrative. I think the U.S. Senate race is going to be a referendum on national politics, and I think you'll see the auditor's race in a different lane.
With a minute left, who won the week?
Claire McCaskill. I mean, she got a left of center, a primary opponent to her left, and she had far right groups pour big money in. She's doing town halls in Southeast Missouri. I think it was a good week for her.
Who won the week?
Nicole Galloway, serious audits, the Putnam County Hospital, and like you said, Governor Nixon, who appointed her.
Yep. Who won the week?
Peter Kinder, I think his recent appointment did well for him.
Congratulations to Peter Kinder. Who won the week?
Representative-elect Sara Walsh brings a friendlier face to Caleb Jones' old House district.
Well, Carl stole mine. I was going to say Peter Kinder. However, I will say I think the Speaker of the House won the week. You had a race that you could have maybe got snuck up on. He didn't let it happen. And he won a race right in Nicole Galloway's backyard in Boone County. Kudos to him, and kudos to you for watching us on This Week in Missouri Politics, and we'll see you next week. This Week in Missouri Politics, brought to you by Spire and Sterling Bank.